Okay, so today I'm going to be changing the window regulator and motor on a 2004 Dodge Ram 1500. I have the door set up. I'm going to go ahead and insert a clip here of showing how the window's acting right now. So here I am in the truck just showing the window. You can hear barely going down. And it sounds like it's kind of skipping gears in there, so definitely a good point to get this regulator and motor changed out before it fully dies on us. The driver's side is actually in the process of failing, where the passenger side has already failed, so the passenger side won't go down at all, but the driver's side is slow to go down, slow to go up, kind of sounds like it's struggling, so we're going to go ahead and replace that now. Kind of going through the list of tools that I'm going to be needing. I have this T40 torx that I need, 10 mil socket. We got a ratchet and a couple extensions, just a little triangle pry bar in case we need to have trouble popping the trim off, and then Phillips and a flathead screwdriver, some tape that we'll use to hold the window up, and then you can see here I purchased the window regulator with the motor already attached, so we're good to go there, and then just some lights in case I need it. But putting the tool cart to use. And with that, I'll get started on taking the door panel off. So the first things we're going to need to do is get this door handle off. If you can see in there, it might be hard to see, but that's where the torx bolt is going to be. And then we're going to have a screw behind it, a screw up in this corner where the mirror's at, and then 2 screws at the bottom of the door, and then that'll allow the panel to pop off. So it's really just 5 things to get off. And then while we're doing that, the switch panel also needs to get popped off. You just have to pry it out. And then there's 2 push clips for the electrical connections there. The door handle is kind of tricky to get out. Kind of have to hold it at a weird angle to get it set first. So we'll just kind of work through that. There we go, that comes right out. Next up, we got to take out those 4 screws I pointed out. Hard to see from this angle, but there's 2 that run across the bottom of the door. They look different than the 2 at the top, so you shouldn't get those confused. There we go. At this point, I think you can just use a flathead screwdriver, pry it up real easily, kind of push it towards the back of the door and pull up. These connectors, you can see this tab on the front, just got to push that in and they pull right out. This one, similar. And at this point, we should just be able to grab the door. There's kind of hooks that go into the door, so we just got to pull up and then pull it out towards us. Kind of use my knee to go below that piece, the pocket. And look at that, pops right out. With our door panel out of the way, next we're going to have to take off the rest of this mechanism right here. You can see there's 2 10 mil bolts in here, and then our kind of, I guess, the door lock piece. So once we get those out, I find it easier to then snap it out of the white retaining clip. Okay, got the 2 nuts off of those. Like I said, we move this out of the way. Pop it out of the white retaining clip, and then it just slides out of that hole. And what we're gonna have to do next is peel back the water vapor panel, and then 4 bolts holding on the regulator, and then a few more to get to that are gonna be holding kind of the X part of the mechanism. I can show it real quick over here. These are gonna be the 4 that I mentioned that we're gonna have to pull out. But first we'll get the nuts that are on these bolts, and then we'll have to scoot the window down a little bit after we take off of these 4 to get to the 2 more that are going to be hidden up inside the door. Once it gets peeling, it comes off a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is start with these 2 bolts over here. Now I'm gonna loosen up the 4 kind of black bolts that you can see in here. I had one already fall out, so that makes me a little worried, but we should be able to remove this the rest of the way. So that's the last bolt out of this 4, and I have these 2 undone, but the bracket's still poking through. So at this point, no need to worry, the window won't fall down on you, but it should be loose enough that we can then scoot it down. There's going to be 2 bolts that are holding the regulator to the window, and they're going to be up in the panel. So basically, we need to scoot the window down. One we should be able to get maybe through this hole, and the other one I think is this hole over here. So I just grabbed the window and scoot it down enough. I have the rain guards on. I think once it reaches towards the bottom of the rain guards, that should be enough. You can see through there, we might be able to access that bolt. And then on the other side, looks a little to the side, but we should be able to come in there and get that. So at this point, because when I do get those 2 bolts off, the window will be free, I'll go ahead and just throw some blue painter's tape over the top to hold the window in place. Okay, nothing fancy about that job. It just goes over the top of the door and holds both sides of the window. Back with the 10 mil socket, we'll be able to come in here and get off the last 2 bolts. Now at this point, we should be able to slide. Basically those bolts were in like a small section of it, or we'll have to slide the regulator to the front of the door to get it into the larger openings, and then it should be able to come off the top, and then we'll push it out, crunch everything down, and then pull it out of this hole at the bottom. As the regulator's coming down, don't forget that we also have the motor still hooked up. It'll just have a gray clip that you have to move up with a flathead screwdriver, and then it should just unhook at that point. So you can see I've condensed the regulator, and we're just working it through this hole. Fits out pretty nicely. Okay, I have the new one and the old one at the bottom. One thing to keep in mind, that you can see how much of this serrated area is out on the old one compared to the new one, where it's kind of in a different position. So the regulators won't fit in perfectly how they were before. And what I mean by that is, once we get the 4 black bolts clipped in here, we're then going to have to plug the motor in and actually move it up so that it mirrors how much is out on this one, so that these top bolts can fit where we have the window stopped currently. Much like the old one, we'll kind of squeeze it to fit back through the hole. And I think while it's down, I'll plug the wire of the motor back in. Okay, we have the motor hooked up. So now what I'm going to do is get this lined up to put the 4 bolts back in. Getting that top bolt started. Just for some more security as I get these other ones done, I put those threads through their hole. So at this point, I'm going to clip back in the buttons. We're just pumping this up enough that we'll be able to get that last bolt attached. Okay, I just had to push the window up a little bit from the inside to get the inner bolt on this side. This one popped on pretty easily. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten those down. We'll move the window all the way up and then tighten everything else down. We'll release this again. At this point, we got to kind of press back on the weather sealing. Don't forget to pull out the door lock hinge. And now we need to put this piece back on. I really don't know what the name of it would be. Insert it into that hole. Swing the white clip. Get it lined back up. Now we just got to get our door panel. Like I said, there's hooks on it, so it's just going to fit into all of the holes. We'll come over the top and push it into place. Pushing down on everything to make sure we're in place. And what you can really do to check is to make sure that the screw holes at the bottom are lined up, and if you know you have those in and the top looks pretty good, you can feel confident your door panel's in. the proper way. The rest of the reinstallation is really just your personal preference on what to do first. We'll go ahead and go through the 4 screws we had. Nice piece to put back on. Kind of tricky just because it's a weird angle. Nice. Okay, if you guys made it that far, let me know what you think about the job. I don't have too many more truck repairs coming up, so I'm happy about that. But I think this was a quick, easy job. Probably took me about an hour per side once I figured out how to do it. You know, the driver's side went a lot quicker than what I did on the passenger side that I did first. And let me know if you like I had the chest mount GoPro while I was working on it so that you guys could kind of go along and see what my hands are doing and getting all the different bolts and screws out. So let me know if you like that angle. I personally am liking that a little bit more than previous things. But yeah, so pretty easy job. I'm glad it's done. The tool cart was sweet to have. Held all the tools, even the part fit on it. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today.